upon the stairs.
The pastoral simplicity of Estolia, when compared with the modern world, creates a schism for those who must be a part of the leadership. One cannot be a world leader and be ignorant of the global community, with the geopolitical skirmishes and power struggles. For the average Estolian, this understanding of the greater world is accomplished through a college education outside of the nation. For the stray Aaron, it is sometimes necessary for a more extended sojourn away from Estolia's simplicity to drive home both the complexities of the modern world and the cherished simplicity of their homeland. Nicodemus Luciano Zakarian, Capitulo 89.
Don't be too long.
The Queen admonished them.
We'll have your celebration breakfast in less than an hour.
Xavier waved to his mother and waited until the stable hands guided the other horses away from him and his brother. Both of them removed the saddles and bridles before picking up curry combs to brush the sweat and dirt off the horses' hides.
Why Horace?
Max asked. He did not look at his brother as he brushed the stallion. Xavier laughed.
Horace seems the right sort of name for a gelding. Cousin Nathaniel said I couldn't name it, just horse, so I chose Horace.
Max groaned.
Really, Zed? I always wondered why. It was better when I did not know your reasoning.
He finished grooming his stallion and set him loose in the paddock. He moved over to where Xavier worked on Horace and started on the horse's other side.
Why a gelding?
Xavier chuckled.
You are the horseman. To you, Rickety is a person with whom you communicate. To me, Horace is a horse that carries me where I need to go. I did not want a horse that would complicate my life. I wanted my horse to interact well with yours. A filly would never work, and a stallion would fight with Rickety.
Max opened the paddock gate a second time and helped his brother urge the gelding in with his stallion. Once the gate was shut, he looked at his brother.
I did not realise, Zed, that your choice of a horse was based on my needs.
He smiled. It was not the first time his brother failed to notice when he, Xavier, sacrificed something for him. But in this case, it was no sacrifice. He wanted the least complicated horse available, and Horace was perfect. Max put an arm around Xavier and said happily,
Let us go wash up. We are to have a celebration breakfast in addition to our party tonight.
The two boys walked toward the palace. The sun had already climbed well above the horizon. They would be late if they dawdled. Max's pace picked up.
Go on ahead, Max. I want to take my time.
Xavier said. He loved his brother even when they quarreled, even when envy crept in. Today, he said to himself, he would focus on what he loved about his brother. Xavier pulled Max into his arms, gave him a back-thumping hug, then watched as his brother loped toward the palace entrance. Max reached the base of the stairs and picked up speed, nearly running up the 2.5 levels until he reached the grand entrance. When the door closed behind him, Xavier turned his attention to his immediate surroundings. He turned his back to the palace and looked out over the valley toward Mount Estoliana. The lesser peak was in shadow, and the larger peak looked more like a mother embracing her child than ever before. He turned slowly, taking in the spread of Estolia around the palace until his eyes focused on details closer to where he stood. He stood beside the immense palace pond, which was lined up perfectly with the entrances to both the temple and the palace. The temple itself was built into the base of Mount Estoliana. The pond was home to large koi and other creatures. Philostos was the caretaker and one of Xavier's favorite people. He was not there now. The morning was advancing. Xavier let himself linger a moment longer, then turned toward the palace. He could not dawdle much longer if he wanted to avoid censure. He turned his back on the pond and looked at the palace. He tried to see it as a stranger would, and failed. He had grown up with the palace as his home. He knew it was supposed to be remarkable, but he could not see it. He stopped at the base of the grand staircase, the one part of the palace that he found worthy of note. He loved the staircase. Carved from the stone of Mount Zacharias, it was solid and sturdy. At the base, on either side, stood cat statues roughly his own size, duplicates of the much larger cats that guarded the entrance to the temple. He smiled at one of the statues and started to climb the stairs. As he climbed, he studied the most prominent feature of the stairs. Where the two lower flights came together at the landing and then split apart again was the one thing that always fascinated him. Chiseled into the stone was the Estolian flag. He could not believe how precise the ancient carvers had been, that their work would remain so beautiful and so crisp after 2,600 years. Carved into the stone were the two stylized mountains depicting Mount Estoliana and Mount Zacharias. On the flag, the mountains were brown, gold, and green, against a royal purple background upon which the stars of Estolia hovered. 4 in the center, one for his father, Beauregard Excalibur, one for his uncle Antonio Cordero, one for his grandfather Montavius Hieronimo, and one for his great-uncle Lazarus Ricardon. The 2 stars to the far right symbolized his great-grandfather and great-grandfather's brother. They were both in Tarizon now. His attention then switched to the 2 stars on the left. One was for him, and the other was for his brother, the rising stars of the next capitulo. When he and Max turned 15, they would begin to be considered amongst the first 4 of Estolia, the Strellaron. The day he became his brother's last resort would mark the first day of the 86th capitulo, the 87th generation if you included Zacharias. He felt a shiver of gooseflesh across the back of his shoulders and down his arms. He looked away from the chiseled flag to the inscription beneath it. The writing was almost Estolian, but not quite. For one thing, the inscription ran right to left instead of the waterfall of words cousin Nathaniel always taught his peers. It matched the writing from the earliest days of Estolia, before the script was fully developed. The inscription read simply, "Keep the promise," or "Keep my promises." He had been given both translations when he asked. Either way, the message was clear. Keep the promises that Zacharias made to deity, so that deity, in turn, would be bound to keep the promises made to Zacharias. One of the things his great-uncle Ricard told him was that the inscription under the flag was meant as a key. That had always confused him. He sometimes thought Ricard was referring to the man who invented the Estolian language, key, whose name was pronounced the same as the English word key. But Ricard had clarified,
"One day, young Xavier, you will need a key to decipher some of Key's writings. The inscription on the staircase, and incidentally on the dagger you will one day wield, is designed to help you understand everything Key wrote."
He shivered as he thought of Ricard's words. Like Antonio, Ricard spoke with riddled words, with meaning buried under meaning and understanding coming slowly, if at all. Perhaps someday he would understand what Ricard was telling him. For certain, the inscription teased him every time he read it.
Zed!
His brother's voice, calling from the upper balcony, hurried him along. He had a birthday celebration to enjoy.
He turns his back upon the pond and looks toward the ancient stone. The mountains rise like arms embracing a boy who stands between